Good afternoon and welcome back to Dynamics 365 Finance and Operation. We are continuing our journey to talk about human resources and what are the different functionalities that are available out of the box. We've talked about configuration, we've talked about now some of the information, some of the functionalities that are available. We've gone into the employee itself and then filled out some of the information. And today we're going to talk about professional experience. So it's going to be a bit of a short video, but I think it would really be helpful to understand what are different out of the box functionalities, what are different forms that are required, and some of the information that I can share with you in terms of my previous experiences and how I utilize these forms. So let's get right into it. So this is what you've seen quite a bit of times now in my other videos, and this is should be very relevant to you in terms of the employees as being active. This is the form that you would see it, and you know how to navigate into that form. And in terms of the professional experience, if you were to select an employee here, we click on the professional experience, and there's a new form that comes up. And you should be very familiar with how the forms and tables work within finance and operation by now. So this information actually should have technically should be populated if you have an applicant tracking system. So in some of the implementations, what I've done is basically have an applicant tracking system that retrieves information from a resume that gets uploaded for a particular position. And at that point, once it's uploaded, and that employee gets hired, for instance. So skipping the step of screening and interviewing and whatnot, you get to a point where you create this employee, this Arnie who gets hired, and they're assigned a position and they're assigned a compensation and benefits. We'll talk about that. I retrieve this information from their resume. So this is what I've done actually in the past, and that's how you could utilize that. But of course, a technical resource is required who knows how to do the integration with the ATS system. And of course, as a functional consultant, your job would be to simply map these things out. You want to make sure from your resume what are the information that you need to capture in order to make this integration successful, and you can use this form actually for that. But if the integration is not established from the informational purposes, if you want to simply capture this information, and HR can do that as well. What you need to do simply is click on edit, for instance. Already there was a blank form that was created, and you can put in the employer name. So the name of the employer and the position that this employee held at that employer. uh, you want to give the internet address, not very applicable, because who would want to give the URL for the company itself? The employer itself is could be any company that Arnie worked for, and then the position associated with it, and then you can retrieve these two information from internet anyway. So it wouldn't be really relevant, and not many people actually give the internet address or a telephone number of their employer or previous employer at least. The location itself, same thing. If you're applying within Toronto area, for instance, more or less you would be employed, or your previous employer would be in Toronto, unless you are coming from a different country whatsoever, could be relevant there. But from an HR manager perspective, I don't think they have any interest in where this employer was, at least from my experience. What would be relevant is maybe like the start and end date. So how long you've actually stayed with that employer, for instance, and that's usually relevant. And one more thing that you can do is notes. So if you were to talk about the integration piece, then that would simply mean that you have their resume captured here. That is one thing that I had done actually in the past. Other ones, if you're simply adding information on your own, then you can type anything that you would like. It is a text form. There is, of course, character limit, but it exceeds far more than what you can possibly type in order for you to capture the professional experience of this particular employee. So these are some of the things that you should be aware of. And of course, you can integrate this, but normally I would say that if that client of yours have the budget for it, they absolutely need this, then it makes sense to have the applicant tracking system integrated to this form. But if you have a repository of resume already, then no point of bringing it into the system itself, because apart from this, you can also integrate it into another form that we haven't actually talked about, but that would be something that I can also share my experience with you when we get to that videos, or when we get to that set of module or submodule of human resources. But in this case, what I had done was very simple, very straightforward, and I simply copy and pasted the resume here as part of the notes, and then the HR managers would just go in and they will know what relevant information that they're looking for. And to extend this whole piece, they actually had Power BI integrated. So they would be selecting keywords from the notes, and then they will generate their reports and the dashboards and whatnot. And that would help them figure out who in house has a particular set of skills and professional experience that they can utilize. So that is the form that you would use as a professional experience, and I hope that you kind of learned some of the things that you could use to utilize as you become a functional consultant within this space. So I will see you guys in the next video.